Hey everyone, this is Steve and I am Engine Post, and today I'm going to show you in a Fusion tutorial how to pull off this effect. This is a 5-part series where we're going to go through everything from creating that portal effect, animating it, tying animations together by using expressions. We're going to discuss how to build the background plates for images and pull focus. We're going to use a third-party tool to do that that's very reasonably priced, as well as how to sync audio. So again, this is a 5-part series. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Okay, well, welcome to part 1 of this tutorial on building portals with Fusion. This is kind of a popular effect I'm going to let play in the background here. And the key is the portal effect itself, it's all about building the actual noise and animating it using a series of plugins native to Fusion. So there's no extra plugins, it's just all pieces and parts made from the free version of Fusion. And so let's start here in this part 1. We're going to talk about how to build the basic ring. And so let's get started. The trick to building the basic ring is noise. So if we do a shift space down here and we type noise, we're going to look for FastNoise, arrow down, hit enter to add it. Okay, I'm going to set up my environment a little differently here by right-clicking and forcing all of these things. There's probably a preset that does this, but now we've done it. And so by holding control and scrolling the mouse wheel, or holding in the middle mouse button or the mouse wheel, I can realign all of this so it looks a little better. So let's take a look at that FastNoise. I'm going to send it over to viewer 1 by clicking this little button here. All of these buttons correspond with different viewers, and so I've launched 3 different viewers, as you can see here. This is just an extra viewer that I often put on my secondary screen. You can create new viewers by just going new image view, and then it'll add little dots down here at the bottom. We can also send this over to viewer 2 by hitting 2 at the top of the keyboard, right? So that's the quick shortcuts for that. Let's turn that one off though. So here we are, we have our FastNoise, and FastNoise basically looks like clouds. If I scale that up, then we see a lot more. If we up the details, then things get a little, they have a lot more variation between the whites and the grays. The black represents transparency. We have a checkerboard backing this. That's what we're looking at there. In addition to that, if we want to make those contrasts, the contrast between the lights and the darks pop a little bit, we can up that contrast. Now looks like we're getting real clouds. We can also fiddle with the brightness if we want to plane it off a little or crank it up. I like to see as much detail as I can, so sometimes I'll turn that down a little bit, who knows. So it just depends. And then again, we'll fiddle with scale a little bit, get it at the right size. So what we want in order to get that sort of that cloud ring effect that we were aiming for over here. So if I click on this and send this to 1, that's the effect we're going for, right? We want to see a big sort of cloud ring build and shoot out like a little portal, like that's, hey, somebody's appearing, you notice on the right here. So let's figure out how to do that. Right now it does nothing. It's just going to sit there as a big dead cloud, which is fine. We'll work on animation later, but part 1 here, let's figure out how to make that into a nice little cloud. So the trick to that is polar coordinates. And so you might have seen this effect in other scenarios where you need sort of the effect to be a round thing. And we could just throw masks on there to make it round, but instead we're going to use something called a coordinate sort of tool. So I'm going to type in coordinates and then hit enter on the keyboard. And I'm going to send that over to this monitor. And what does that look like? Well, it just takes this and warps rectangular to polar, right? If I'm going to flip that from polar to rectangular, now it's starting to look something like what we've created, in terms of the effect that we're going for. And so, it's round at least, right? But how do we narrow that roundness? And the answer to that is, if we go back to FastNoise, we need a mask. And so let's click on, you think it'd be an elliptical mask, right? Nope, that's all messed up. And if we even went back to polar coordinates and messed with that some more, still looks wrong, right? So let's stay with polar to rectangular and delete that. We need a rectangular mask because it's bending the whole scene into a circle. And I didn't attach it. I should have had FastNoise clicked first, so I'm just going to drag this down into the effect. And so now we have like half a circle. So what happens now if I take this thing and I grab the x-axis handle and scrub left and right? Okay, I'm actually messing right now with the actual cloud, so I don't want to do that. Hit Control Z to escape. I just want to grab the rectangle, and I'm going to grab its little coordinate here. If I pull that left and right, look what happens. It's starting to make its way around the circle, right? How do we get it to fill that whole circle? Well, the answer is, if I hit Control Z to put it back to the middle, I want the width of that mask to be 100%. So why am I showing you all those details? I'm showing you all those details because you might find and think of other reasons to use this effect, like doing some other kinds of motion graphics, like infographics and stuff like that, that build a pie chart or something, right? And, like maybe you're filling in a donut graph. But either way, that's how that works. So how do we make this more centered than it is right now? And the answer to that is, we really need to transform it. And so I'm going to add, with the coordinate space selected, I'm going to add a transform node. And I don't want the 3D, I just want to transform. So I'm going to hit enter on that. Now we have a transform node. Let's send this over here to number 2 by hitting 2 on the keyboard. And now with the transform node selected, we can size it down. And notice that it's still clipping on the edges. So let's not do that right away, undo that. But we can change the aspect ratio for sure. Yeah, that's the effect we want, right? We want it to be a perfect circle, so we just fiddle with that until we get a circle. So the question is, again, how do we make this sort of scaled down, right? Because I had mine was a lot more scaled down than that. It kind of came out from the middle. Well, the answer is, we affect the mask. So going back to this mask, we want to affect its height now. So if I trim out the height, notice how it's shrinking the inner and outer based on where, based on the center of that mask, just as it was over here. So again, if I make it larger, it's going larger, equidistant on the left and right from the center of the sort of the torus shape. And so that's how we affect that mask. So that's cool. We're getting closer, right? And so next we want to figure out, how do we actually how do we make it softer on these edges? These edges are intense. Actually, how do we make it smaller? Maybe that's the next right question. Well, the answer there is, we have to affect the mask again. So again, we fiddled with how dragging it left and right can shrink the, like maybe we're building a donut chart here. How do we make the whole donut sort of smaller? So let me go back to the center there. I'm going to grab the y-axis, the up and down axis here, and I'm going to drag that down. And you'll notice now it's shrinking about the center. By about, I mean around the center. When I drop it, it should get a little clearer there. The other thing we want to do is probably, maybe we don't want it that wide again, right? So how do we shrink it about the around the middle, equidistant from the inside and the outside radii? Well, the answer again is back here on the height. So I'm going to shrink that, and I'm going to keep going down on that mask, because that's how we change both sort of the radius, the radii from the inside to the outside, as well as its size, is its vertical position on the y-axis, and then the height. So again, how do we make this a little softer so it looks more like a cloud exploding out? And that's just using the soft edges on the mask. So by expanding out on those soft edges, now we're starting to see something that looks like the cloud we care about. Notice that the closer we get to this bottom edge here, I'm going to zoom out by holding Control and the mouse wheel. And by moving the mouse wheel in, I can kind of zoom out a little bit. The closer we get to this bottom edge, the harder that inside is going to get. So watch as I drag this lower. And then once I actually hit it, well, we're getting a solid mark at the bottom there. So if I go a little above that, it's almost sort of transparent in the middle. The best way to see this is by merging it with a black background. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And it's only temporary. So this is what we're trying to build over here. And then I temporarily want to put this in the foreground to something and something else in the background. So this is probably going to the background right now, which it is. So I'm going to click that blue front portion of the line and make it disappear. And then I'm going to add a background. So there's a BG up here or down here, anywhere. I can hit Shift Space and start writing the word back until we get to background and hit Enter. I'm going to drag with a right click this red little node over to here and drop it. And that asks me, where do I want to put it? The background or the foreground? So we'll put that on the background. If I were to send this up here to 2 with a click of the keyboard at the top 2, now we're seeing that black background. I'm going to do the same thing with a right click and a drag to this, drop, and click foreground. And now if it's grown at all, or if we have this in the right position, it should, as it grows, we'll see it sort of expand out. Right there, that is looking a lot like that circle we talked about, isn't it? I mean, it's really coming along. The only thing might be that it's sort of not centered well enough. And so I'm going to grab this transform node and drag it up just a little, just so we can see more of the action going on. I'm going to hit to fit so that it thinks it sees the sort of the boundaries out. Let's go to 100% and let's actually hold Control and scroll the mouse wheel and scroll out. Let's be sure that's right at the center, this little guy here. So to do that, we want 0.5 on all of these coordinates. So it's 0.5 distant from everything, from every side. So it's halfway to the top and bottom and left and right. And now we have that sitting there. So now we're starting to see how, if I select this mask, how to make it grow and shrink, right? And the more shrunken it is in the middle, it just happens to make this little real veininess. And that's because it's just compressing more of that cloud in the middle. So that's a good cloud to start with. The next thing we might want to care about is maybe making this a little more complex, right? So let's go back to fit here so we can see everything. And I like that. I just want a little more complexity and a little more distance, right? And the way to do that is, again, we go back to the mask and we're going to say that we want it to be a little higher. That'll just kind of expand on that cloud a little bit. So now we're getting a nice expansion of that. I don't like how bright it is. I want to lower the contrast between the lights and the darks here because I just want this to appear like a big roiling dust cloud, right? So I'm going to lower the brightness. That'll knock out the blacks a little more. If I bring up the brightness, everything gets brighter, and then I can lower the contrast, and then it just looks more like a milky cloud, right? Again, the lower that I put the rectangle over here, it'll still get that pinched look, which is kind of fun. So it'll like have like an explosion from the center, and then as it travels out, it'll look this bit like a big cloudy mess. Let's I think that's okay, but I think I want to go back to this and just tweak the detail a little more. I want a little more detail in that cloud, but so far I like that cloud. So the next big question one might ask, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and Control, is it? I forget which. Right click. I'm going to scroll out with Control just so I'm sure I'm seeing everything the way I want to. And we should be able to, from here, see. Let me go back to fit so it sets it into the center. I want to get rid of this edge right here. This is an ugly edge. So we're close on the cloud, but what we really need is something that feels more like a continuous cloud shape, right? And so the trick that I used to pull that off was adding a TV node between that cloud and that polar coordinate. And so let's take a look at what that does. So right now we transformed its size so it sits about the center of the screen, around the center of the screen. And here we have our little rectangle mask on that. So now what we need to do is we need to apply a TV node. Why a TV node? What a weird thing to add, right? Notice it gets all these lines because we were adding scan lines. If we crank this up, it gets all veiny weird. I mean, there's some coolness there. Maybe you'll want to do something like that. It looks like a TV that has some kind of like magnet attached to it, like you're degaussing the television or something. We don't want that though. So I'm going to kill the scan lines. It looks really specular though. It's like really dusty. Notice there's a noise tab up here. So we go up here and we can knock that noise out of there. No more noise. So be sure that everything is 0 here. We're going to go back and we're going to change the frequency to 0 as well. Just so there's just 0 effect coming from the TV right now, which is what we want. But what the TV lets us do is it lets us do all kind of clever things. So notice over here, this is our cloud, and that's because we're sending the fractal noise right up into viewer 1. I'm going to take TV instead now and go to viewer 1 by clicking that first dot. And what I want to do is I want to have, like, this is another often effect that you see in television, is the fact that like if this is a cloud and it ends here and here, I might want to roll this like the TV is flipping horizontally so that I can now see that edge. See that kind of hard edge right there? Let me zoom in on that so you can get a good look. So there's a hard edge right there, and I hate that. That's where that is coming from, that goofy edge. So I'm going to zoom back out again. And so the way to solve that is I need a mask. I need a mask attached to the TV node. So what I'm doing is I'm just basically offsetting that cloud so that I can fiddle with it. So going back here first, I'm going to grab the TV rather, and I'm going to grab the horizontal, and I'm going to get that as much to the center as I can. And I want it over on the right eye. People tend to look at things from the left to the right. So I think for one, even though this is an imperfect science and I can't prove this, I think it's going to be less noticeable on the left versus the right. But now adding a mask is going to change the world. So notice how it does all kind of weird stuff when I add that mask. It's putting these lines like through it. And as I take that mask and I resize it, so with the mask selected, I'm going to resize that so it encompasses the circle a little bit here. So I'm going to fiddle with that till I feel like it's just right. And now it's starting to sort of overlay stuff. What happens if I crank up the soft edges? And right now, not a whole lot. We still have this hard line through the middle. Well, what happens if I grab this and drag it down over that? Okay, and then I start messing with some soft edges. Technically, let's crush that even more. So I'm going to just see if I can crush this mask right over that line right there. So I'm going to make it less wide and less high, and maybe more wide now that I'm there. And I should be able to really mess with that soft edge until it really starts getting a little blurry. It's better over here, not so much better over here. What happens if I change the height? Does that start affecting it even more? Well, it flips it back. So this is definitely affecting it here, but not here. So we would just keep fiddling. So let's take a look at exactly how I did it over here. There are some masks. There are some hard edges. They're in weird places. I took the TV and I definitely rolled it a little bit. But then I applied the mask, and then with the mask, what I did was I inverted it. So let's see what happens to those edges once I invert the mask. So with the mask selected, again, I really want it to kind of just go around the extent of this. So I'm going to bring it back down till I have that mask pretty much surrounding what it is I mean to affect. And I'm going to make it pretty big. I want it to kind of fill every area where it would likely be affecting things. And now let's see what happens when I invert it. And when I invert it now, as long as it stays under that mask, we are now getting a continuous infinite cloud mask. So now, again, if I go back to rectangle and I raise this in and out, as long as I stay inside that mask area, it is going to forever look like sort of the perfect mask. And as it goes to the outside the mask, it gets a little more challenged. So again, not bad. I think we're onto something there, right? So that's what we've done so far to sort of create that. We're going to do one more thing before we go much further in order to create sort of a leading edge to that mask that looks kind of like lightning, right? I think that'll be a cool effect. And so let's mess with that. To do that, we're going to basically duplicate everything up to this transform. Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to do a little control copy here. I'm going to drop it down here. And now I really want to control roll the mouse so I can see more. I want to merge these two together, not with a background. So let's get rid of that. And I want this to go to the foreground. We got to reconnect that with a right click and drag to the background. Okay. And that's now showing us 2 layers of clouds, and we don't really want it to look like a perfect match, right? So the way we change that perfect match is first I'm going to go to the FastNoise of the lightning. So if this were FastNoise for the cloud, I can right click on this. Notice it's got a little label there, right? And I go down here to rename or F2 and I hit that and say this is going to be my portal underscore cloud. You always have to put a space or something like a dash. I think it has to be an underscore though, and then it'll at least look, you can see that space between the name. If you just put a space, it'll respect the space, but it'll actually crush it. It won't like send you a warning. It'll just say portal cloud in one word. So down here, I want to hit F2 to rename it. I'm going to call this one portal underscore lightning. Okay, so this is going to be my cloud and this is going to be my lightning. Let's move these a little closer together so we get a little gap here between what all is going on. Raise that up. Okay. So again, here's our portal cloud, here's our portal lightning. So in the lightning area, what I want to do is I want to change the seed. And what the seed does is it decides, let's first just look at that. I'm going to send this over to camera 1 or view 1. So that's the new lightning, and here's the cloud. I'll send just the cloud over to number 2 here. Okay. If I want to change just the lightning, what I can do is I can change the seed, and notice like this bump matches that bump perfectly, and they're going to stay in sync as they roll forward because it's just a program, right? So in here I want to go down to seed, and that's where you set different seed values. If you watch over on the left hand view, you'll notice that things are changing, and so that's good. That's what we want. We want them to look different from each other, differently. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to make it look more like lightning. To do that, we go up here and we need to maybe we'll keep the details high. We'll crank the contrast. See, things are definitely changing. We're going to lower that brightness. So now it looks different, right? How about the scale? Maybe we can add more or less of them. I like more of it. Let's mess again with some details. So if I were to go over here and say less detail, it's just a big blurry thing. If I add more, then we get a lot of little bumps. If I crank the contrast, then they separate nicely, right? Lower the brightness, then it breaks down a little more. That's getting better, right? Let's see what happens if I crank this up to like 50 for detail. We're getting a little more change. Maybe we need more brightness again. No, what I think I want to do is I think it's okay as it is. Let's mess with the seeding again. Yeah, it's going to look like lightning a little bit more, but what we need is something that makes it look even more like lightning. And the best way to do that is on the lightning area after the TV, but before the coordinates. Actually, it doesn't really matter as long as it's before the transform. Let's pull that over to the right here. We're going to click coordinates, we're going to hit shift space, and we're going to write your road, and then select the tool that both erodes and dilates. So what does that do? If I select erode and dilate, watch over here, if I dilate that, it sort of expands it almost like a lens blur, right? So if I were to go back and change the seed on that lightning, it's gonna look like a little flickering lens blurs. Isn't that cool? I mean, maybe you want to simulate some water lens blur, and that because it kind of looks like water, right? But what if we really want to go the other way? Let's see what happens when we erode that. So 0 is you know, the way it looked originally, and if we go even more, now it starts getting like a little streaky. So let's go back. That's good. We want lines, we want veins. So that means being sure that our contrast is good and high. Probably at that point we could crank up our brightness. That's looking pretty good. Let's mess with details. We're going to bring that down and try to just, you know, put it somewhere around, say, like 1 right now. And then slowly bring it up till we feel like we're getting enough detail to look like lightning. Can maybe we bring the contrast. No, I like that contrast up high. Let's try to double it, 10. Now it's looking like Swiss cheese. I don't like that, so we're going to go back down to 5. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So if I just play with the seed, you'll notice that it kind of looks more like lightning or water or something at that point, which is pretty cool. But what I don't like about it, I'm going to send this over to camera 1. What I don't like about it, if I go to camera 1 or camera 2 with that, is that, oops, I'm going to take this one and go to 2 and take the original portal lightning here and go to camera 1. What I don't like about it is it's really too wide. It looks like a pipe that's kind of floating through the air. So I'm going to change the mask on the lightning and make it more narrow. Okay, let's mess with that seed again a little bit. Be sure we like how it's working. It looks okay. I want it to be more veiny. So again, we're gonna go over to erode and dilate a little bit and fiddle with that again. That's definitely thinner. Let's now mess with scale because I want it to be thin, but I want there to be a lot of it. So right now it's, you know, we want more detail, basically, more of those little veins. So what happens if I grab this and grab the scale and see it's 50? Well, that's right off the map. I mean, this looks good here, but this is now gone. So if I seethe this a little bit, it's there, but it's just almost non-existent, right? So let's go back down to, like, say 30. That's okay. Let's back off. Let's keep backing off to like 20. That's all right. I think 10 is probably our number. And then let's mess with the seethe again. Okay, now I got something that looks like a little bit of electricity running around the edges. The only other thing we might do is, again, fiddle with this erode. Make it a little bit bigger. Go back to the lightning. So now we have, if I see that it's going to still have those lightning variable values, I'm going to crank up the brightness. Crank up the detail. Keep the contrast as high as I can. Let's mess with the scale one more time and try to get it so we get a lot of little striking lines everywhere. And that's pretty good. We just want more holes, more lines like that. So now we have 2 layers, one that is very different from the other. So again, if I grab the portal cloud and put it on the left and grab the lightning and put it on the right, you'll see that they do look very different. The issue is going to be maybe this one as a cloud should be a little longer, a little wider. So I'm going to change its height. But then this one, I want to be on the leading edge of that one. So to do that, I'm going to go down to the mask for the portal lightning. And I'm going to raise it up. So it's sort of on that lead edge. So this is the lead edge, and then it's more cloudy. So again, I'm not totally satisfied with my clouds here. I want to kind of fiddle with this a little bit more. I want it to be as much individualized like that little areas. Right now that's, again, not going to look like much, but you'll see what'll happen in a moment. So this is on the bleeding edge of that. If I go back and look at the whole of that together, let's merge these two here with the background. So with the merge selected, actually without the merge selected, I'm just going to write merge. I'm going to right click and drag this into the background and right click and drag this into the foreground. And now if I project that up here, we can see how that's working. But what we need to do is now add some color so that we can kind of see them apart a little differently. So again, this is the foreground and this is the background, right? So let's put this like lower to imply the background like that. And then let's add a color here. So I'm going to add color curve, shift space, color, go down to curves, hit enter. This is going to be again the portal cloud, and what I want to do is I want to make it blue, so, or predominantly blue, right? So I'm going to turn off everything but blue. Now I'm going to grab that blue line and start dragging it a little, and there, that's kind of a nice blue hue. I want this to be sort of a smooth, uniform, connected end, so I'm not having to move them independently. Like right now I have to move them independently. If I hit S, it's going to connect those together. So now when I rotate it, they rotate together. So now let's figure out, I like how the middle is kind of white and then the outside is kind of blue, but let's fiddle a little more by shifting left and right to see what levels of intensity we want. Kind of like that. Let's go up and down with it. So that'll increase and decrease the amount of blue. I like that right there. So that's looking pretty good to me. Now let's fiddle with the lighting. Same thing again. Color curves. It's already selected color because that was the last thing. I just have to go down to curves and hit enter. And that's following the transform node here. And so now with color curves here, I basically need to pick a color, right? So let's make the lightning red, and the lightning is again sitting just on this outside edge. So let's deselect the blue and the alpha and the green, and now I'm going to grab that red, pull it up, hit S, and now let's fiddle with that. What color do we want? How saturated do we want it, right? That's the question. So again, we can hit an S curve to intensify, reverse that S curve, we can get some really intense colors. Now going left and right will also help us with the softness or the hardness. Going up and down will help us with the saturation of that color, right? So right somewhere in the neighborhood of that, I'm going to rotate this back so it's taking over a little more of that white area. Same with this, I'm going to expand the curve, right? I kind of am digging that a little bit. And then, but I want it to be softer, so I'm going to drag it down a little. So now that is going to be pretty much our lightning cloud, but we'll want to change just a few more things, like maybe the intensity of things as we go. So like if I were to take this and turn on alpha, can we alter the alpha in different areas? Actually, we're going to use a different technique to mess with alpha, so I'm going to Control Z that. When we go back here to control that alpha, what we can do is reduce the brightness on the actual portal clouds. So let's go there and let's lower that a bit. There we go. I like that. So there's the portal cloud. Still, it should grow and seethe the way we want it to, but that's going to help us do the animation we need to do. And so, all right, I think we are pretty much there with our cloud. In the next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to animate that cloud. So see you there if you want to keep watching.